So, hello everybody and warmly welcome to our Väderstad Tempo online training. This training is made for all of you who are out in the field with one of our TPV models with a front hopper. In the next 90 minutes, we will put focus on how to start up the machine in the field, how to configure and operate our Väderstad e-control, and also how to do maintenance on the machine before or after the season. Please make sure, if it comes to safety instructions, read the menu. This movie will be only additional to the manual. If you have any questions during your training, you can use the chat function, and we can easily answer your questions live during the training. If you have any questions later on, you can write an email to academy@väderstad.com and for sure we will answer your questions. Now I would like to start sharing our knowledge to you and hand over to my colleague Ludovic Knab. Enjoy the training.
So, thanks Lasse for introducing me, and I wish you also a very warm welcome to this Väderstad online training for Tempo TPV models. So now, as Lasse told you, I will introduce you a little bit more about how to connect the machine to the tractor. Please, before connecting your machine to your tractor, very important recommendation is make sure you have all the recommended stuff on your tractor regarding amount of spool valves, about required oil flow to operate the machine, and about also electronical stuff going to licenses if you want to use the machine with section control. Here, as we are using TPV model with a front tupper, please make sure you also have the recommended amount of spool valves in front of your tractor, and also that you have a free return to operate properly the machine. Also, another point is to be really well prepared for the season. Please mount everything together early before the season, so you are sure all fits well together and all is working fine. Another point is also regarding all the legal aspects on the road. Please make sure about the weight of the tractor and the machine together, because this is quite a heavy stuff, and also that you have all what is required about light and sides. And now I would like to share with you a small quick start movie about how to connect the machine to your tractor. So now that you know how to connect your machine to your tractor, some very important recommendations to remember. So first one, isobus plug. Please make sure this one is well connected in order to have enough power on your system when you operate it. Secondly, the free return. Please make sure you don't have more than 5 bar back pressure. Also, if this one does not fit correctly, do not resize the hose and also do not change the connector, because this would bring the oil to warm up inside the system. And the last point, really important to remember, is make sure your 3-point linkage is set correctly on your tractor, because when you are working in the field, make sure that your machine is working and driving straight behind your tractor.
We have 2 options to control our tempos. So the first option is to control it with the isobus system of the tractor. Also, you can use the Väderstad e-control system. We recommend you to use our e-control system because you are able to walk around the machine with a display. You get a good overview about the machine with our display, and you have a lot of functions in there. Our e-control system is delivered separately to the machine. So you get an e-keeper which is connected via Bluetooth and has a Bluetooth button for controlling the iPad. So for connecting the e-keeper, you have to activate the Bluetooth in the general functions of your iPad. Another components are the loading cable for the iPad and the RAM connector for connecting the e-keeper in the tractor cabin. For connecting our e-control system, you have to put on the Wi-Fi, also in the general menu. The name of the Wi-Fi is TPV and then the number of the gateway. The password is 123456778. After starting the gateway, it takes some time, so about 90 seconds, for uploading and connecting. When you're connected with the Wi-Fi, you can download our e-control app for free in the App Store. It's available for all iPads except the iPad mini. When you open the e-control app, you come to our home screen. In our iPad, we have a master and a slave function. So the master has an open lock and the slave a red closed lock. For changing the master and the slave, you can click on the red, so the slave iPad or isobus connection for asking for the master key. And the master can give it free to the slave. When you use an iPad and the isobus controlling system, the iPad is always set as the master. For changing the master and the slave mode, it is possible to make sure that the machine is standing still. As a note, when you're using isobus and the e-control system, the e-control system is always the master. For changing it to the isobus screen, please press the red lock and ask the iPad for access. If you like to control the tempo with the isobus screen in your tractor, please make sure that the UT function is turned on. And also, after connecting the isobus connector, it would take some minutes till everything is uploaded in your screen. When everything is fine, you can see in the isobus screen the whole machine and can also control everything.
So, thanks Caroline for connecting the iPad to our planter. After connecting the iPad or eControl the first time to the machine, it's really important to check settings. I would like now to put focus on the machine settings, the general settings and the alarm settings. Entering our setting menu, starting with the machine configuration. If you will enter this menu, there will plop up a message which asks you if you really would like to enter this menu. Please make sure only to enter this menu when checking it or changing some configuration of the machine. Click on with yes. First of all, the type of the machine. You can choose between all our tempo models. In this case, we have a TPV. Seed sensor. We have one sensor in the seed hopper which recognizes how many seeds are in. If you would like to use the sensor, you can put it on yes. If you are working with small seeds and you are not able to fill up the complete hopper, you can turn it off, so you wouldn't get any alarm about the seed filling. Hydraulics, if your machine is equipped with boot markers or with hydraulic row unit pressure. Take on or off. Last thing, the fan pulses per revolution. That means for the seed fan, how many pulses the sensor will count for one revolution of the fan. In this case, 2 pulses per revolutions for a TPV. After doing all settings in the machine configuration, we can go to the general settings, as you can see here. Starting with tramlining. If you would like to do tramlines, put on yes and you get a separate tramline menu. Same for task control. Task control means the connection to our isobar screen from the tractor for doing, for example, section control or variable rate control. If you put on yes, you will get an extra menu. We will focus later on to do all the settings. Manual feed speed means on the home screen we have a pre-fill button to pre-fill the machine, and if you're pushing this button you will simulate a planting speed of 10 km/h. For fertilizer, here you can see 3 options. For TPV it might be off if you don't use the front hopper. Please keep in mind, if you haven't the front hopper connected, it should be always shut off. Otherwise you will get red critical alarms because the machine is still missing the front hopper. Regular is only for our TPL or TPF models, so you can't use it for TPV models. Or our front hopper, if the front hopper is connected, like in this case, choose FH. We have an actuator in the front hopper. You can run on 3 different modes. Off, if the actuator shouldn't turn. On, it will always turn. Or automatic, we recommend to use the automatic mode. That means the actuator will only turn when the metering system, the Phoenix 3 metering system from the front hopper is working. If the metering system stops, the actuator also will stop. Maybe driving on the headland or standing still, whatever. Microgranulate. If our machine is equipped with microgranulate hoppers, please put it on and you see an extra menu for microgranulate. Something to keep in mind, if you are not working with microgranulate, don't always go to the general settings, shut on and shut off. Only put the microgranulate rate in the menu to 0. That's much easier than change the general settings. Speed source. Here we have also 3 different options. Starting with machine, that means we use our radar sensor from the TPV, or 2 other options where we will use the speed from the isobus from the tractor. isobus 11783 means that the speed comes from the isobus connector on the tractor. Here we recommend to use the ground speed. That's the speed from our steering system from the tractor. Same for the height source. For the height source we have also 3 different options, starting with machine sensors. We have 2 sensors in our parallel linkage which recognize if the machine is lifted or lower down. The ISO 11786, that's a connector you can find in the tractor cab where we can get the height source by an extension cable to our machine. But we recommend to use the ISO 11783. That means the isobus plug from the tractor, bringing the height from the 3-point linkage from the tractor to our machine, so we can easily recognize if the machine is lifted or lowered down. If we go for this menu here, you see here a special lift control menu will plot up, where you can see the actual height from the 3-point linkage from the tractor and our points for feed start or feed stop. You can easily change here if you will have them somewhere else. Going back to general settings for the last points. Numbers of rows and row distance, that's quite easily. If you will rebuild the machine, maybe to 12 rows with 500 mm row distance, you can change it in here. The adjustment steps for seed, fertilizer, microgranulate or radial pressure, that means the steps if we are on the home screen or the mode menu and would like to increase something or decrease, we will go in this case for all in 5% or 5 kilogram steps. You can easily change it maybe to 10% if you would like. Last things, the units, we can go for metric or imperial. The language should be on automatic, so it will be always the same language which is set up in the iPad. The ID, we can give our machine a name. In this case we choose TPV. And the serial number from the type plate you can enter in here. Now, after finishing the general settings, we have our last menu, the alarm settings. Here we have several different values for getting an alarm, maybe because of bad seed placement, bad singulation, or too high, too low fan speed for front hopper or TPV. I wouldn't explain all of them, but please keep in mind these values are well set from factory. Please do not change them because it's important that you will get an alarm if something went wrong. After setting our e-control properly with the general settings, the machine configuration and also the alarm settings, I would like to go out in the field with you and do the basic settings on the TPV.
So, now that you have seen the quick start movie about basic settings, I would like to do you some reminds about what to do. So first, please make sure you have well set your 3-point linkage in order that your point frame where is written tempo V on it is 90 degrees to the soil. Secondly, you have also to set your support rails in order that your parallel linkage from your row unit is parallel to the ground also. This one should be really parallel to the soil when in working conditions, so that you have really the full range of work in the soil also when you have difficult conditions, stony conditions or cloudy conditions, but the unit has really the free movement and can really easily follow all the soil contour. And the last part will be the row marker. Please make sure you have well set them in order to have the right working width on it. Also, some additional information about high sources. If you use the high source coming from the isobus, you will have this window on the e-control. This will allow you to set the start of feeding for the planter and the stop of feeding, depending when you leave the machine. So this means this one can be changed also. If, for example, when starting the machines, you see you have still some seeds outside of the ground and not in the soil, you can decrease or increase this high source so the machine will start later on or more early to seed. Also, this can be done if you use the high source from the machine, but if you use the high source from the machine, you won't have here the screen. You will have to change that here on the sensor directly to change the position of the sensor. As a last information, if you use that with section control, you can maybe increase a little bit more the high source value, because section control will take completely the hand over the seeding. And very important also, when calibrating your radar, please do that in the field, really in field conditions with machine unfolded, like when you go for seeding. So, now that you have seen how to do the basic settings, I would like to share with you some additional components to check before and after doing the basic settings. Firstly, here under our e-service cover, we have two main fuses. If it happens that your isobus plug is not well connected, it can happen that you get too much power into the system and one of both these fuses can burn. So please check if both fuses are well before going more deeper into the trouble. After that, if we have a radar on our machine, please make sure that this radar is well set to 35 degrees to the soil in order to have the good signal coming. Also, here on our TPV machine, we have a generator. This generator is linked via a belt. Please check the tension of this belt before starting your machine. Also, after the use, after the season, please clean very nicely this generator with pressurized air. Another point very important, here under our cover, we have a battery. This is a 12-volt battery. Please make sure you have the right tension on this battery before restarting your machine. Also, here under our black cover, we have our ECU, our electronic control unit. This unit is done to give the signal to the machine in order to seed, to the raw unit, to the microgranulate, and also to get all the signal from the sensors on our machine in order to work properly. When cleaning your machine, please don't use pressurized water on this ECU. Use only pressurized air in order to avoid any troubles in the future. If it can happen that you get some water getting to this ECU, please clean the connectors of this ECU only with pressurized air in order to avoid every short circuit in the future. One last point is on TPV models, we have some folding sensors. If one day you do not have any hand on your iPad and you cannot use your machine properly, please make sure your folding sensors are working well. And now, I would like to go with you in the field to show a small quick start movie about how to set up the row unit.
Now I want to introduce you in the Seedmeter. The Seedmeter is an overpressure system. The seed is sticking in the holes in the seed disc and with overpressure. From the seed disc it gets in the seed pipe and the airflow is bringing the seed in the soil. To avoid skips or doubles, we use the singulator. The singulator is here, and here you can choose the position 0 to 9. 0 is the most aggressive position. So it is very important to find the correct singulator position for every crop. For changing or maintaining the singulator, we have to put the singulator in position A, B, and C. The rubber reel is blocking the airflow, so the seed is able to move in the seed pipe, whereas the seed sensor, which is counting every single corn. When the seed is arriving on the soil, the stop wheel is catching the seed and helps to get the best position for every seed and a good soil contact. To make sure that everything works correctly, you can control the knockout reel arm, which if it stays in there and not skips back automatically, it needs some silicone spray here and here. Also, it's worn out when you can just remove the knockout reel by hand without pressing it in. Then the knockout reel is also worn out when it looks like this. Also, when you see marks on the rubber reel, it's worn out. And on the seed disc, it is a problem when here are too many scratches in there. For the singulator, you can see on this singulator that here is just a few left from the inside, so they are worn out.
With our Väderstad Tempo, we have the possibility to do several types of crops. We can adjust the row spacing by moving row units, so changing the distance between row units from 450 millimeter up to 750 millimeter. And we can change several components on our Seedmeter, so we will fit nearly to all crops all over the world. Now I would like to talk about settings for corn, sugar beet and oilseed rape. How to adjust the Seedmeter and which part we may can change. For planting corn, silage maize or maize, we recommend to use our standard seed disc delivered with every machine. It's a seed disc with 32 holes and 5.5 millimeter diameter of the holes. For that disc, we will use our gray knockout wheel to clean every single hole of the disc if it comes to maybe broken seed or small stones. Please make sure when putting on a new seed disc that the seed disc is well adjusted. You can remove this little pin and bring the seed disc closer to the housing or remove it a little bit from the housing. The hatch should be completely opened for corn. Here, if it comes to this plastic grid, we have two types of grids. We have a grid with a small opening, and here you can see the standard grid mounted on every delivered machine with a big opening. For corn, we should use the big opening. If we use that one, it may cause corn with a high 1000 grain width won't run through this hole. Using our overpressure, that will be set by around 3.5 kPa from the fan speed. The singulator should be around position 3 or 4, depends on the 1000 grain rate. For sure, before starting planting, we should do a seed calibration to make sure the singulator is well adjusted. If it comes to our seed sensor system, we have two different options. In that case, the 60 mm seed sensor, as you can also see in here, that we can use for corn, but we can also use our 22 mm seed sensor for planting corn. After doing all this adjusting, you are now ready to plant corn with our tempo with the Seedmeter. For planting sugar beets, we will use our sugar beet disc with 41 holes and a diameter of 2.5 mm. The disc will fit together with a red knockout wheel to clean every single hole of the disc. The hatch should be closed to position 2 or 1 if it comes to planting sugar beets, so we have less seeds here in the Seedmeter. If you may have seeds which are really bad penetrated, the seed disc will crush the seeds here laying in the Seedmeter. We can use this adapter, open the hatch completely, remove the pin from the axle here, and you can put in this inlet right in here, close the hatch, and you have a really small opening. That means you have only less seeds here in the housing, and the seeds won't be crushed by all the turning of the seed disc. For singulator, you can set it to number 5 up to 7, depends on the size of the seeds. Working with overpressure, we will set up the fan from around 2.6 up to 2.8 kPa. Never go lower than 2.6 kPa. That means if we go lower, we have too less airspeed in our power chute system. This may cause doubles or triples in your seed line because we have less air inside our seed sensor system. For seed sensor system, we would like to use our 60 mm seed sensor system. The 22 mm we will not recommend for planting sugar beet. The diameter is wide and we have also less air pressure in the system. Last thing is the grid kit. We have a small seed grid I mentioned before. It's this one, together with this metal grid, which will divide the airflow coming into the Seedmeter. That was all for planting sugar beets. For planting oilseed rape, we have also a special oilseed rape disc. This one with 121 holes and a diameter of 1.4 mm. This disc, like the sugar beet disc, will fit together with a red knockout wheel. For planting oilseed rape, it's also a small seed. We also have to put in our grid kit for small seeds. The plastic one with a small opening and the metal grid for the airstream in the seed meter. We also recommend to use our 16 millimeter seed sensor, same as for sugar beet. The 22 millimeter sensor may cause problems with the airflow in our power chute system. For the hedge, we can use our adapter like for bed penetrated sugar beets, but normally we recommend to use the hedge normally on position 1 or 2. The singulator should be set between position 2 to 4 for planting oilseed rape. The fan speed should be around 2.6 kPa. Please keep in mind the same like for sugar beet. Don't lower down the fan speed to less than 2.6 kPa. For oilseed rape, really small seeds, low 1000 grain weight, it's really important to have a clean seed sensor. So use the brush and use soap water to clean the sensor before planting oilseed rape. So, with that settings, you are now prepared for planting corn, sugar beet and oilseed rape. So you can see here we have different parts, and please make sure that your seed meter has the right parts for the right type of crop.
So now I will speak with you about the fertilizer system on our planter. So here on TPV models, the fertilizer is used in combination with our front tupper FH 2200. So now I will show you in a quick start movie how to connect our front tupper to our tractor and also how to connect all the fertilizer system to our planter on the back of our tractor. And after, I will see you on the other side of the tractor. So, now I meet you again on the right-hand side of our tractor. So, as you can have seen, now you know how to connect your front tooper to your tractor and also all the fertilizer system up to your planter. Now I will explain you a little bit more how to operate our front tooper with our tractor and with our planter. In fact, on our planter, we cannot use the signal from the position sensor in order to operate the start and stop feeding from our metering unit to use the fertilizer. Because as you can see, there is a very long distance from our metering up to our fertilizer counter. This means that the fertilizer will need roughly 3 seconds to come from the metering up to the fertilizer counter. So this is why here on our system, it's not possible to use the signal from the position sensor from our planter to operate it. In fact, on our system, we have 3 possibilities to operate this system. We can have or use this hydraulic pipe in order to give the signal to the front tooper in order to start or stop the feeding. This one needs to be connected to a spool valve, and after that, here we have an electrical connector on the back. This one will be connected to the front tooper harness. And after, in order to start and stop the feeding, you will operate just or by putting pressure on your spool valve or by putting your spool valve of floating position, and this will after that stop the feeding of your metering unit. The second possibility would be to use this electrical bridge. This bridge is connected directly to our front tooper harness, and after, in order to start and stop the feeding of our metering unit to bring fertilizer to our planter, we will have the possibility to start and stop it through the iPad directly on the e-control. And the last possibility to start and stop fertilizer from the metering unit would be to use this bridge in combination to the section control, and this means that fertilizer would start and stop automatically via the GPS signal. So, I would like to speak a little bit more about the metering unit on our front tooper. So here, our front tooper is always delivered as a standard with the standard roller in the metering. This roller is able to achieve fertilizer rates from approximately 60 kg per hectare up to 250 kg per hectare. If you have the need of higher fertilizer rates or lower fertilizer rates, we have optional different type of rollers available, as you can see here on my table. Please take care when removing your roller. In front of your roller and in the back of the roller, there is one plate like this. Please always use the special tool in order to take out that plate. Another important point, if you are not sure about the quality of your fertilizer, we deliver our machine with a fertilizer testing box. This one is really easy to use. You have to fulfill the rank D here with fertilizer. You shake approximately 30 to 40 seconds. And after that, you see on the rank A how many percentage of dust you will have inside this rank. If you have more than 10% of dust inside the rank A, this means that you have a very poor quality of fertilizer. So if you have such kind of poor quality of fertilizer, please take care about the system, take a look that nothing gets clogged and that you don't have any dust everywhere on the system. If you feel you have some problems, we can have also available on our machines, we can put some venturi system before the metering unit in order to avoid the air to get up in the metering and also to avoid the bridging effect inside the front tooper in order to keep a perfect flow of fertilizer. Also, from Väderstad, if you have such kind of fertilizer, we recommend to use the seed lead. This lead will allow the front hopper to be pressurized in order to keep a good flow of fertilizer. And also, we recommend to use the aggressive hodger. This hodger has a 8 mm shear bolt on it, safety bolt. If you have clouds of fertilizer inside the hopper, sometimes it can happen that this safety bolt breaks. So please take care and be sure this hodger is always turning. And now I would like to go with you on the back of the machine. So now we are on the back of the machine. So one recommendation and one thing very important for you is please check daily the fertilizer system. This means make a daily maintenance on this one in order to clean everything and to be sure about all the system. So from the metering system on the front hopper to the pipe all along the tractor to the distribution head on the planter to the pipes going to the fertilizer coulter, and also very important to be sure that here our 90-degree pipe is well cleaned and you don't have any dust or cloud inside. Also, one important recommendation regarding the distribution head is when you are using the distribution head like we have here on a nitro machine, you will have some red plugs like this inside. Please make sure this one is also clean and you don't have any dusts or cloud here inside. This should be something done daily and that you check daily all the maintenance of this system. When using on a 12 row, you don't have this plug. But please be aware, and a big recommendation from our side to check all the fertilizer about cleaning less daily. And now I would like to go with you a little bit more to the fertilizer coulter and to speak a little bit more about the position of this one. So, as I told, now I want to speak a little bit more with you about the position of our fertilizer coulter on our machine. Our fertilizer coulter recommendation is to mount this one between 5 and 7 centimeters close to the seeding line. This is made in order to avoid the seed that we just put inside the soil when it starts to germinate, in order to avoid that the roots get burned by the fertilizer. Also, another point, from the factory, we always mount our fertilizer coulter 7 centimeters nearby the seeding line. This is done because when you are driving in curves or in hilly conditions, it can happen that our fertilizer coulter gets closer to our seeding line, and in order to avoid it gets too close to the seeding line, we always mount it by 7 centimeters. So please make sure this is all well setted if you have to take away your fertilizer coulter and to rebuild it later on the machine. And now I would like to go with you to show a small quick start movie about how to make the calibration of our fertilizer hopper.
would like to introduce you to our user interface from the iPad. You see here up in top 3 buttons. Those 3 buttons you can set up just as you like. You can choose if you want to see the kilopascal, the pressure in the seed meter, if you want to see the fan speed, or the fan speed for seed, or the fan speed for fertilizer. You can also see the speed or the hectare counters. And this you can choose for every of these 3 buttons individually. Next to these 3 buttons we have the tramline counter. You see we are in 2 of 6 rounds. You can also here manually add on rounds or take down rounds depending on what you need. Below the tramline counter you see the marker arm settings. Depending on which arm is down and green, that one is activated, and you can switch them by pressing the button, or you use this button and activate it, then the marker arms will switch automatically from left to right when you lower and lift the machine. Below the marker arm functionalities, you have the pre-fill button, where you can make sure you get seeds applied to the seed discs after you maybe shut off the fan. Below the pre-feeding or pre-seeding button, you have the tramline stop, means you can lower and lift the machine without the tramline counting forward. And here we also have the button to activate the front hopper, the fertilizer metering over there. Always when it's green, it's activated. Up here we see the output from the machine, the output of seed, of fertilizer and microgranulate. It shows the real life output, and you can here also do adjustments if you want to increase or decrease the amount. By pressing the button, apply it, and then it will also be here visible what you just set up. And you can of course easily reset it again, so it's going to be to the main setting. Here the main part of the screen is the statistic. It will always show you the last 20% in the precision of your machine for every single row unit. If the bar goes upwards, it means you have doubles. If the bar goes downwards, it means you have skips. As long as the bars are green, everything is very fine. If they are yellow for some while, no big reasons to worry. But if they turn red, you need to immediately stop. Of course, the machine will stop seeding and you have an issue which you should follow up. Might be a plugged hole. From this main menu, we can also go in some other menus. Here we have a menu where we, for example, can switch on and off the work lights in the front hopper, and we can also adjust the row unit pressure. From this menu, we can go to our statistic menus, where we have different counters. We have a daily counter, a seasonal counter, and a summary counter. The daily and the seasonal counters can be reset, while the summary counter will always remain. We have here also counters for seeds put out per row unit, and also here it's a daily counter and it's a seasonal counter, so they can be reset. And now we here also have the statistics for done hectares, and this is like hectare seeded, while this one is hectare overrolled while the machine is down. For example, if you use section control and some rows are off, you're of course seeding less hectares while you roll over all these hectares. So this counter is the most precise one in regards to seeded hectares. Down here we also have the statistics, similar as in the main page. If the column goes up, it's doubles, down it's skips for every single row, and you also see the precision per row. In the buttons up here, you can reset the counters for the statistics and also for the hectares or acreage you have done. The next menu to look at will be the alarm menu. We see we have here a few yellow alarms. We can easily delete them, alarm by alarm, but we can also delete all alarms at the same time. If there is a red alarm, you for sure need to delete it, otherwise the machine will not keep drilling or start drilling again. Of course, make sure you also remove the alarm or it appears right away again. Yeah, so this about the menu points. And from here I'd like to hand over to Lasse, who will guide you through the tramline system and the setups for it.
As Maria mentioned before, we have the possibility to do tramlines with our tempo planters. How to set up the tramline correctly, I will show you now. Entering the settings, check on General if tramline is active. So you can see here yes. And then we have an extra tramline menu. You can enter here. If you would like to do tramlines by shutting off rows, you easily can enter the width of maybe your fertilizer spreader, sprayer, whatever in here. In this case we have 36,000 millimeters, means 36 meter tramlines. We also need the axle width of the tractor in front of the sprayer or fertilizer spreader, in this case 1,800 millimeters, and the dimension of the wheels, in that case 900 millimeter, quite big wheels. You have to choose the first turn you will make in the field. If you maybe go up in the field and then turn left for the second right, choose left here. Or otherwise you can choose right if you've done it in the other direction. Increase the seed rate on the neighbor rows. That means if we will do a tramline, maybe by shutting off row unit number 8, we have the possibility to increase the seed rate on row 7 and 9 to have nearly the same seeds all over, because shutting off one complete row. We can increase that to maximum 25% per row. So, then you have the option white lining. Some tempos can be equipped with white lining. If you would like to do tramline with white lining, you won't shut off any row. The machine will be equipped with hydraulics so we can move rows. But for that topic I will say some words later. In this case we won't use white lining, we will shut off rows. Here it's important to turn white lining off. After putting in all the numbers, you can go to calculate, as you can see here, and then automatically our tramline rhythm will appear. Here you can see it and check it. In line 1 we will do nothing. Line 2 also nothing. In line 3 we will shut off the first row, in this case row number 2. And then in line 4 we will shut off the next row, so we have here our track going through with sprayer or fertilizer spreader. And after line 6 we will redo the complete thing, starting again with line 1. Going to the home screen, you can easily see now we have a rhythm of 6 lines. And as I told you, if we go to line 3, here you can see it gets green. We have a tramline, and you can easily see here row number 2 is deactivated by doing the tramline. Going now to 4, we see here that's number 2, so this both rows will fit together for our tramline track. As Maria mentioned, if you will lift or lower down the machine, we will go to the next tramline. If you won't use that, maybe you will lift the machine in the field, you can deactivate the tramline counting in here. White, it's deactivated. Green, we will count the tramline again and again when we lift down or lower up the machine. When we have a TPV equipped with white lining, we have the possibility to turn on white lining in our tramline menu. Now we won't use our automatic tramline menu in here. We will go to Custom Edit. Here. Using white lining means we will not shut off a row. We will have some row units on our machine equipped with hydraulics, so the row unit will move 15 centimeters to the left or to the right side. So we have some space for our maybe slurry tanker with really big wheels to go in there. For sure, we have to think before how is the working width of our machine and how is the working width of our sprayer or slurry tanker or whatever, and the width of the axle and the dimension of the wheels. For this machine in my background, you can easily see here there's a big gap because row unit number 2 and 3 both moved 15 centimeters to the left and to the right side. The same we have for row unit number 5 and row unit number 6. We have here a machine with 8 rows, means we have 6 meter working width. 6 meter working width will fit to every sprayer or slurry tanker width or whatever, which we can divide it through 6. So if we have a slurry tanker with 36 meter, that easily fits. We can divide it 36 meter through 6, so we have a rhythm of 6 lines. Same maybe for 80 meters, that might cause a rhythm of 3 times. If we have maybe a slurry tanker with 27 meter, that wouldn't fit to an 8-row machine. In that case, you may use a 9-row machine with 75 centimeter row spacing. Then it will fit. So keep in mind to check the working width or the width of the tram lines and the working width from our machine if it fits together doing tram lining with white lining. So I was talking about a 36 meter slurry tanker. That means we will have 6 lines for tram lining. So we go to custom edit and check from up to down our lines. In this case here we find 6 lines. Then, as I mentioned, we have moved row unit number 2, 3, 5 and 6. So here we should first deactivate the tram lining as we had before. So here easily can see if it's a green symbol like this, row unit will be on or will working, and if it be a symbol like this, so we can here go for 6, it's 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. This row unit will move in line 6 now. We can save this tramline rhythm, put in 36 meter white lining, and save it. If we go to this folder here, we can open it saying 36 meter white lining. The 8 is standing for 8 row. Choose that one. Here. Now we can see here in line 6 the row units will hydraulically move, so create a tram line. In all other lines we will go as normal with 75 meter row spacing between each row unit. On the dashboard we have the same. If we go to 6, you can here see our tramline symbol. We won't see anything in here because all row units are working. So we have normally our diagram and all row units will turn to green when we are in working position. Please keep in mind, for moving the row units, the seed fan should be on because we will get oil from the seed fan from moving the row units, and we have to go faster than 2 kilometers per hour. That's because of safety reasons. We will never move the row units standing still because there might be a risk to hurt someone standing in between there and the row units will come close together. That's to keep in mind. So that was all working with white lining. When operating our TPV and front hopper with section control or variable rate control, we have to turn on task control, as you can see here in that menu. If you turn on task control, it takes some time uploading all the data from our gateway or e-control to the isobus screen from the tractor. The isobus screen from the tractor is the one who is responsible for shutting on and off the rows or increasing or decreasing the amount of seed, fertilizer or microgranulate. Now it turns on and we got an extra menu for the task control settings, as you can see here. we will enter this menu and do the settings, starting with the section control settings. If we would like to do seed section control, turn it on yes, like here. Then we should enter the number of sections we have. In this case, we have an 8-row TPV on 750 mm row spacing, so it means we will have 8 sections, each single row will shut off by itself. For fertilizer, we have 3 different options, starting with follow seed section control. That means if the seed sections will shut on, also the metering system of the front hopper will shut on. We don't recommend to use these options because we will have a delay of the fertilizer, because we have a wide way from the front to the back to the culture, and the seed has only a really short way. So if we use that options, it may cause gaps in the field for fertilizer going from the headland into the field. Second option, and that might be the best options, is to use own sections for fertilizer. That means we have an isobus screen which can handle more than 1 product for section control, and we will have separate shut on and shut off times for fertilizer and separate times for seed. If you use this option, use sections for fertilizer, you should put on this plug in the harness coming from the front hopper, so the fertilizer will be always turned on. Only if the isobus screen say shut off, it will be shut off. So please connect this one. Next options will be no section control. If you may have an isobus screen which don't handle 2 products of section control or even more products, we can easily use this hydraulic plug. If we put pressure on it, it will be connected for sure to the harness coming from the front hopper. It will put pressure on it with a hydraulic remote. The metering system will start. If we put it on float, the metering system will stop. So we can easily shut on and shut off the fertilizer or the front hopper by using a hydraulic remote from the tractor. Connect this one. If it comes to microgranulate, we have the same 3 options like for fertilizer. In this case, it might be also okay to use follow seed section control, because the distance between the microgranulate culture and the seed culture is really short, and also the distance from the metering system to the ground. So here it's okay to use these options. Otherwise, you have the option to use sections, own sections for microgranulate. Same here, you need an isobus terminal which can handle almost 2 products of section control, or maybe no section control, so it will start if you lower down the machine or stop if you lift the machine. We recommend to use the follow seed section control option. If it comes to rate control, we have the possibility for each product also use variable rate control. In this case for seed, fertilizer and microgranulate, only by turning it on or off. If it's on, for sure we need prescription maps in the isobus screen. Please make sure the prescription map is written in the right unit. That means for seed, we will write the prescription map in seeds per hectare. For fertilizer and microgranulate, we will write the prescription map in kilogram per hectare. Please make sure that was done properly before. If you are not working with prescription maps, please also make sure that these 3 points are turned off. If it's on, while we don't have a prescription map on the isobus screen, the machine wouldn't plant, because we will not use the seed rate or fertilizer or microgranulate entered here in these menus. The machine is still waiting for an amount from the isobus screen. If there's no amount coming, the machine isn't able to plant. For section control, it's really important to have the right offsets, starting with A connector X. That means we can put in a positive or negative value in here, depends on which side the machine is moving, because it isn't straight behind the tractor. Maybe because of a bad setup of the machine or the 3-point linkage from the tractor. You can adjust here, but it might be even better to adjust the 3-point linkage. B, connect the offset Y. That's 1300 mm for a TPV. That's the distance from the 3-point linkage from the connector to the place where the seeds come into the ground, so our seed counter. The connector, how the TPV is mounted, for sure we should choose the 3-point linkage mounted. For C, section offset Y, it will be always 0 on a TPV, because this value is only the distance from the axle to the seed counter. But in the case that the TPV is mounted to a 3-point linkage and we don't have any axle, that one will be always on 0. The section control turn off and turn on time. Here, starting with the turn off time, that's the time we need if the metering system for seed stops and the last seeds will drop down to the ground. Other option will be the section control turn on time. This time is the time when we start the metering system, the seeds need to drop down to the ground. For sure, these two times should be set up properly. We have 300 milliseconds as a standard value, but you have to double check in the field. How to double check and what to do if we may have to use other times, you can see in the animation right in here. I would like to highlight our quick start movies for how to set up task control with different isobus screen. So it's always a little bit tricky to set up all functions right in the isobus kernel. But for that, we have several quick start movies for several different brands of isobus kernel where you can easily figure out how to set up everything in our eControl and in the isobus terminal from different brands.
And now, at last, but not least important, we would like to share some advice about how to clean and prepare the machine after the season to have the machine ready to go for coming season. The first thing you probably do after you're done with all your seeding, you clean the machine with air and also water. Please have in mind, after washing the machine with water, to always start the fans and let the fans run for 15-30 minutes to make sure all the water gets out of the systems. Also, when washing, cleaning the machine, put a special focus on all the parts which were in contact with fertilizer. Make sure they are very clean and there is no fertilizer left. We all have had a situation when they maybe got a little crust and then you never get it off again. After you're done with washing the machine, the next thing to do should be greasing the machine. You will find all greasing points in our instruction manuals. This counts for all machines, of course. Very clear where to go and where to put grease in. When you do this, please make sure you also grease those points which are maybe a little hidden and not easy to reach. Example here on the TPL, it may be the greasing points here at the axle. Make sure you don't miss any of those. Now we moved from our TPL to a TPF. And this is because all the advices we are giving you now, they apply, of course, for all machines. After we're done with washing and greasing, we should check all the hydraulics on the machine, like the connections, the hoses, and make sure there's nothing broken, damaged, or wear on it. This, of course, is important so your machine is ready to go for next year, but also because this is a very important safety issue. After we are done with all the maintenance on the machine, we also do some maintenance to the Seedmeter. We open it up, of course, and then there are a few things we should check. Of course, first we have a general look at it if everything seems fine. Then we focus on the adapter here to make sure it's not damaged or has any big scratches or something. That looks fine. We check the singulators. There are marks here in the singulator, and if they are not very visible or you can see became very small, then you're going to change the singulator wheels. We also have a look at the lid here. Check if the knockout wheel still has the teeth, if the spring here works fine, everything good here. And then about the wheel here and the axle where the wheel is running on, if that's still good and fine. Everything done here. We also put some silicone spray here on the sealing of the lid to make sure we keep the rubber soft. We actually do the same on the lids on the microgranulate and seed hoppers. And from here, we move down and have a look at the soil parts of the machine. Check the scraper of the seed discs if they are not damaged and sitting tight. And then we also check the wear of the seed discs. And that's actually pretty easy. We do the credit card test. We insert the credit card, and if it's stuck there, everything good. If it falls out here, means the disc got smaller and the gap is a little bigger now. Then we can remove some washers behind the screw, and how this is done we show you in a little animation. The next thing to check on are our sensors here on every row unit. You see them of course now green because the machine is of course completely clean. But when the light is red and flashy, then you know something got stuck there and it's definitely needed to clean it. And of course before we store the machine for the autumn season or winter season standing in a barn, we should clean it. We can use the brush here which comes with the machine and also some soap water to make sure we really get it totally clean. But of course have in mind if you use water at the machine, it needs to have the chance to dry out before we use the machine again. Now we are at the fertilizer cultures of the machine, and those fertilizer cultures are similar on all Tempo models, so everything of course applies to all Tempo models. When we're looking here, the things we need to check on is of course the disc here, that it's not too worn out, and the disc always needs to be longer than the coulter, because the disc is the one working in the ground, making the furrow, and the coulter should only follow. If the coulter becomes longer than the disc, then we just create the problem of very high wear on the coulter and also lose precision. So that's something very important to think of. And also the shape of the coulter, that it's still in shape, not too worn out, not damaged, because otherwise we may risk that the fertilizer doesn't go behind the coulter, that it spreads out to the sides and it's not placed in a position we wanted it to be. So that's about row unit and also fertilizer coulters. The last thing we're going to do is to prepare the machine to be stored for some time. Now we switched to a TPV, and of course this TPV was also cleaned and greased. We also checked the hydraulics and the wear of all the parts of the machine. And the last things we're going to do before we're totally done with the storage is we move the machine inside and we disconnect the battery, and we make sure the battery is fully charged, or we put it to a charger. If we have a machine with a spring-loaded row unit pressure, we're going to release the spring so it can relax. And we actually do the same with the stopping wheel on all 3-point mounted machines, TPV, TPR and TPT, to make sure the machine is not standing on the stop wheel and we create a flat surface on it. So lift it up to the highest position place. And we also release the spring here at the closing wheels, of course also for relaxing. And now we're gonna open all the lids on the machine, also on microgranulate hoppers if we have some. All the sealings on those lids have been sprayed with silicone spray before, and we want them to relax over winter. So we're gonna store it this way, open, and this will help us to have long lifetime on the rubber lids too. If you're looking for information, you can take out the iPad, open the eControl app, and down in the right corner there is a little question mark. When pressing this, you will find a lot of information material, such as user manual for our machines, so you can inform there. And after we checked up the machine, opened everything, and the machine is now stored in a dry and warm place, we shouldn't forget about the iPad, which should also maybe be moved to a warm and dry place inside your house.
So, now we will come to the end of our online training for TPV. I would like to say thank you to you looking at the training and hopefully got a lot of knowledge. But I would also highlight everyone who was involved doing this training. Say a big thank you. And now I wish you a great season, good luck with your planter in the field, and hopefully see you in the field. Stay healthy.